the third time in 3 days, written threats have been made against San Diego schools. Police say the messages threatening shootings at various middle and high schools around the county appear to be pranks. Even so, schools are increasing security to be safe. It is no coincidence we're seeing more threats on campuses across the country. It's a phenomenon called the copycat syndrome. And in the wake of the Virginia Tech massacre, clinical psychologist Dr. Lynn Lunceford says it is not surprising. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You know, we saw this happen after Columbine, and in fact, the Virginia Tech massacre suspect talked about that as an incentive for him as well. Why does this happen?
Well, unfortunately, it emboldens people who are already thinking along those same lines. They feel now that someone else has done it, it can be done, it got them tremendous attention and focus, and it empowers them to take that step that they've actually been already thinking about. It doesn't take someone who's not been thinking about it and embolden them in that direction. It's somebody who's really already been on that edge.
Right. And when we think of Columbine, which has been so many years, this latest shooter back east alluded to those two boys, and it seemed to empower him even more.
It did. He probably fantasized about what that was like for many years. And in fact, in much of his writings, we know he thought himself of what it would be like to kill, to shoot, to hurt other people. It's simply that we really didn't take those writings seriously.
So here at home, we're finding that there have been threats to many schools here in San Diego County in the last couple of weeks. How do you handle this? What do you do?
Well, we have to get better at recognizing the symptoms that are there. In 2000, the Secret Service published a fantastic overview study of school shooters. They looked at 41 school shooters and interviewed those who were not killed in the process of the school shootings. They found a number of factors that identify people as potential school shooters that if we put those together, we can begin to detect signs of potential school shooters earlier and hopefully address the problem. Most of these kids have communicated their intent to someone before they do it. More than half of them communicated that intent to more than one person. So there is a sense of them talking about the school shooting before they do it, or the school violence, but somehow we tend to dismiss it as a problem that they'll work through.
Now, a notorious school shooting here in San Diego was the Santana High School shooting several years back, and that the boy involved in that shooting said he was bullied, and there were signs. So what are some of the signs, or what is the typical profile of these kids?
Well, unfortunately, there is not a profile. The Secret Service really tried to create that when they were doing this study, but what they found instead is that there are factors that are signs that the child might act out in this way. Being bullied is one of the signs, although not all of the kids were bullied. They do feel that they have targets in mind who they want to hurt, and stress, some stressors such as a breakup, a bad grade, failing a class, a stress can set off what they're already intending to do. They also have a sense of wanting to problem solve in this way. People who are suicidal, for example, lose hope, and they feel the only way out of the problem is to kill themselves. People who lose hope in terms of resolving other kinds of problems turn to violence at times.
What do you think about all the media coverage? There has been so much media coverage whenever one of these incidents happens. How much is that affecting these copycat incidents?
Well, the media coverage happens for two reasons. We as a culture and we as individuals want desperately to understand how this happened. It is so shocking to us that we want to understand so we can prevent in the future, and so we can feel like we're safe. It's so disturbing we think anybody could be harmed at any place. The media attention is a problem because it does embolden those people who are already on that edge. I think it's been mentioned a number of times that the focus should be instead on the victims, the courage, the sacrifice that many of them made. That helps embolden people to instead be courageous and to come forward. Many kids knew about Cho's propensities, and in the other 41 killers that were examined, they had communicated to peers more often than to anyone else, and yet often peers do not come forward.
Right. What about school administrators here in San Diego when you have threats? How do you handle that, and how do you you talk about having a sense of safety, how do you make students feel safe on campus in light of these alerts that we're hearing about?
We have to make it really easy for kids to come forward, even if the threat is benign. We have to make it so that we will listen, we'll take them seriously, we'll pursue the threats, because the threats most of the time don't come in the sense of a bomb threat, as we've been seeing lately. It's usually much more subtle in the writings for school essays, in MySpace web pages, things that other peers would see. We've got to make some system where kids can talk to adults about their concerns about other kids.
That's easy to say. It's really hard to do, though.
It is really hard to do. You could do something anonymous, such as a suggestion box where kids could drop in a note. I'm concerned about so-and-so who wrote in a school journal that he wanted to blow up his geometry class. Also, parents are a good source because parents can listen to their kids in a way that other adults sometimes won't. We have to make it so that our kids feel like they can talk to us.
And, you know, I would imagine there are a lot of anxious students on campus, too, just worried about the threat. I mean, most of these threats never come to fruition, but still it disrupts school, it gets in the way of education, and it makes kids nervous.
It does, and when they see more security on campus, that doesn't actually make them feel more comfortable. It often just reminds them of the potential for more threat. Not that more security isn't a good thing, but it can also raise the fears. The school shootings take place in all different kinds of schools, private schools, public schools, faith-based schools, so there is no place where a kid can actually feel completely safe.
Yeah. Sadly, that is the state of our world right now. Dr. Lynn Lunceford, thank you so much for your time from the University of Phoenix. Enjoyed my meeting with you here today. Coming up next on the Inside San Diego, spring is one of the most colorful times of